Hey, what's up, everybody? Brandon Morse here for Red State, here with the Eric Metaxas. How are you enjoying your time here at AmericaFest so far?
I am enjoying it a lot. It's really very, very encouraging. I love Charlie. He's a friend, and to see what he's pulled together here, it's astonishing, frankly. I'm just tremendously encouraged because this is... we're going through tough times in America. We need to get together with like-minded people and encourage each other to fight hard, to pray hard, and to trust God for the outcome, not to sit on our hands and complain.
No, absolutely. One of the things I'm really struck by in this place is not just the reaching out to the young people to kind of let them know that it's okay to be conservative, but the effect that it has on the future of the nation in terms of, telling kids it's okay to want to get married, and not go and be this boss babe that, you can't have both a career and children and family and stuff like that. It's okay to have these values that right now they are telling you that you can't, that it's evil to have.
Well, it's more than okay. It's God's will for you, and you will be blessed. You will be blessed if you understand that marriage and family are at the heart of everything. It will bless you. It will strengthen you to do all kinds of stuff that maybe you want to do. But, I can speak from personal experience. Getting married, having a kid, helped me to do all the things that I have done. They didn't hinder me, helped me. I'm not just saying that. And so all the books that I've written, I'm sure, very sure, I wouldn't have written half of them if it hadn't been for marriage and family. So that's a fact. That's from personal experience.
I would actually like to get your thoughts about the destruction of the nuclear family and the left's attempts to divide men and women and stop them from having children. What do you think is at the core of their desire to ruin the nuclear family?
Well, it's very simple. It's a war between good and evil, and these people, whether they know it or don't, because many don't, but they're participating in a satanic project that is at war with everything that is of God, everything that's good and true and beautiful. Family is at the heart of that. If you don't have family, if you don't have healthy marriages, everything falls apart. And so some of them are doing it wittingly, some of them are doing it unwittingly. They're just at war with God's plan to bless us. And so I think it's part of the cultural Marxist worldview. It's an atheistic worldview, and it is genuinely at war with God. And I think that, I have to mention my book, Letter to the American Church. My new book, Letter to the American Church, I deal with the fact that the church has been silent on these issues. In other words, the church has said, we're just going to preach the gospel, we're not going to get into this. That's not biblical. Biblically speaking, if we believe in the God of the Bible, are to fight for what is true and good and beautiful, and if we don't, judgment will fall. It is the job of the church to speak on these issues. If you're going to a church that doesn't understand that we are in a cultural war, in an ideological war between good and evil, then it's effectively useless. You have to understand God calls the church to speak to these things. And in the book Letter to the American Church, I talk about the German church because I wrote about Bonhoeffer. The German church in the 30s was silent in the face of evil. They were persuaded somehow that it wasn't their job to deal with certain things. And Bonhoeffer tried to wake them up. Of course, they didn't listen to him. And by the time some of them woke up, it was way too late. And the judgment that fell on Germany is one of the greatest nightmares in the history of the world. We in the American church are being similarly silent. I'm not exaggerating. It's dramatically similar. We're facing evils untold from every quarter. If the church doesn't rise and speak against these evils, it is not being the church. The church is supposed to be the conscience of the state. Bonhoeffer said this in vain. I wrote a letter to the American church to say to the American church, will you heed the voice of Bonhoeffer now? Will you understand that now your silence makes you complicit in the evils that are coming upon this nation? So it's a real warning, but I also believe it's an exhortation to people who might be on the fence, who might not understand that God is calling us to get involved in anything, whether it's politics or the culture. God calls us to that. Don't believe the lie that's not what you're supposed to do as a Christian. That's simply not biblical, and I make the case in Letter to the American Church.
God, that's so funny that you mentioned that, because I was thinking that same thing before you said culture war. before you said that, the one thing I was trying to wrap around my brain was, the church is historically a spear point in the culture war. And we have, as a large body,
led the battle against for the abolition of the slave trade. Yeah. There were people in that day who said, "Oh, that's not a gospel issue. Just stick to your sermons." And you think, if you're dealing with something satanically evil like the slave trade and slavery, and you do not speak, do you not think God will? Do you not know that God will judge you for your silence in the face of that evil? And it goes whether we're talking about the unborn, whether we're talking about the transgender madness. God calls His church to speak.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And the church culture that I see, it's very shallow at the moment. And I've complained about this often. I feel like it's more geared toward money and looking like you've got people in seats.
Listen, this is called corruption, and God will judge this. God judged it in Germany. He's judged it in the past when Jesus was speaking in Revelation to the churches, when He spoke through His prophets in the Old Testament. God is a judge, and He will judge us. And if we think we're fooling Him, we are fools. We are at an inflection point in the American church. I wrote this book because I believe God called me to write it. I don't say that kind of thing lightly, but that if the church does not take this deadly seriously and wake up and begin to get this right, the judgment that we've seen is only the beginning of what's going to happen. So it is vital that the church wake up, and that's why I wrote the book.
So tell us the name of the book one more time, where we can find it, because it seems to be required reading.
It's my shortest book ever. It's called Letter to the American Church, and I tell people, please go to my website. You can find it anywhere, but if you go to ericmetaxas.com, that's the easiest place to find it and to sign up for my newsletter and all the stuff that I'm trying to get out. So ericmetaxas.com. Thank you.
Eric Metaxas, thank you so much for sitting down with us. This has been eye-opening. Thank you very much. Can't wait to read your book, actually. Thank you very much. Hey, stick around. We've got more for you coming right up.